Nobody expected a normal flight to turn into a near-death fight for survival. But when Amy and Caleb's plane went down, it didn't just crash into the wilderness. It exposed the kind of secrets and emotions that could tear Heartland apart forever. The 5th episode of Heartland Season 19 doesn't just open with chaos, it throws Amy and Caleb straight into the kind of fear that changes people. What begins as a calm trip in the air quickly turns into a nightmare when the engine sputters. The wings tremble and silence fills the cockpit. Caleb's hands tighten on the controls, while Amy's eyes lock on the endless stretch of wilderness below. It's not just about survival, it's about faith. Every second in that falling plane feels like a lifetime, every breath stolen by uncertainty. The episode captures that edge, the one where courage isn't loud, it's steady. The panic in Amy's voice, Caleb's desperate attempts to level the plane, and the fading hum of the motor all mix into one moment that defines them both. And when they finally crash into the Alberta wild, surrounded by broken metal and thick silence, it's clear that the fall wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. Heartland has always been about facing what scares you most, and this scene proves it. For Amy, it's losing control. For Caleb, it's failing the people he cares about. But this episode doesn't give them time to rest. The wilderness isn't just a backdrop, it's a test. A place where every sound, every shadow feels like a question. What are you really made of? As they struggle to stay warm and find a way back, the bond between them shifts. Caleb's guilt surfaces. He blames himself for the flight, for the panic, for the danger. But Amy, bruised and shaken, reminds him that blame doesn't build trust, courage does. Her calm, quiet strength becomes their compass. And in that moment, when the wind howls through the wreckage, the message is clear. Survival is never just about the body, it's about the heart. Back at the ranch, the air feels different. The news of the missing plane spreads through Heartland like a chill wind. Lou tries to stay composed, but her mind races between panic and responsibility. She doesn't just fear losing her sister, she fears losing her balance. Everything she's been building, the alliances she's been fighting for, suddenly feels fragile. Gracie, her new rival turned uneasy ally, watches her closely. The two women share few words, but their silence says everything. They've clashed over values, over pride, over what's right, but now, with Amy's fate unknown, their conflict pauses. For the first time, empathy outweighs ego. Lou's strength softens and Gracie's defiance fades into quiet concern. The show uses that stillness beautifully. It's not peace, but understanding. Meanwhile, Jack senses something more. He's lived through loss before and he knows the signs: the restless horses, the unsettled quiet, the way the land itself seems to hold its breath. His instinct tells him that Amy is alive, but his heart carries the weight of what-ifs. He distracts himself through work, mentoring the young hockey player again, trying to teach lessons about discipline and patience, while his mind drifts back to his granddaughter. Every piece of advice he gives that boy feels like he's speaking to Amy too. Keep steady. Stay brave. Find your way home. It's the kind of quiet parallel Heartland has mastered, turning small gestures into emotional echoes that carry across generations. Then there's Nathan. His guilt lingers at the edges of every scene. Though he's not part of the immediate chaos, his presence still feels heavy, like a ghost walking through daylight. The episode doesn't need to show him breaking, it lets the silence around him speak instead. A look at his old photo, a pause before saying Amy's name, that's where his story breathes. He knows the family hasn't fully accepted him, and now, with Amy missing, his hesitation feels like punishment. It's the emotional restraint that gives this episode its weight. Every character is stretched thin by fear, and yet they keep moving, keep holding onto hope. As night falls on the ranch, the camera lingers on Lindy, staring at the stars from her bedroom window. Her eyes search the sky, unaware that somewhere out there, her mother is doing the same. It's a moment that captures the soul of Heartland, hope without guarantees. The episode doesn't rush. It builds tension like a slow burn, giving every character space to breathe, to worry, to remember what truly matters. Because when darkness surrounds Heartland, it's not the land that keeps them together, it's love, quiet and unshakable, guiding them home. Morning light breaks over the wreckage, painting everything in pale gold, the kind of beauty that only follows disaster. Amy wakes first, her mind foggy, her body sore. For a few seconds, she doesn't remember where she is. The cold air bites at her skin, the scent of burned fuel still heavy around her. Then reality hits: the crash, the silence, Caleb's still form beside her. Her heart lurches until she hears his faint groan. He's alive. Relief rushes through her like warmth, but it's short-lived. The plane's radio is gone, their supplies are scattered, and the nearest town is miles away through thick forest. For the first time, Amy isn't just a trainer or a healer, she's a survivor. And the woman who's spent her life reading the language of horses now has to listen to the wild. As they move through the wilderness, every step becomes a story. Caleb jokes to hide the pain in his leg, Amy smiles to hide her fear. Together, they stumble upon an injured mare wild horse, terrified and tangled in barbed wire near a frozen stream. It's almost cruelly poetic. Even in disaster, Amy finds a life that needs saving. The horse's panic mirrors her own, but she pushes through it. Kneeling beside the creature, whispering calm words. She does what she's always done. She turns fear into trust. The moment is quiet, powerful, and deeply symbolic. Amy freeing that horse isn't just survival, it's redemption. It's as if the universe is reminding her who she is, even when everything else falls apart. Back at the ranch, the search intensifies. Lou works the phones, pacing between government offices and the hangar where search teams prepare to fly. Her voice stays strong, but her eyes betray the exhaustion. She's not just Amy's sister now, she's a leader forced to balance hope with realism. Jack stands beside her, steady as always, but even he can't hide the tremor in his hands. There's a moment when Lou almost breaks. She leans against a fence post, watching the horses graze, whispering that she can't lose Amy too. And then, like something out of an old prayer, Gracie appears. She doesn't say much, just places a thermos in Lou's hands and tells her quietly, "She's tougher than she looks." It's a simple line, but it hits like truth. For the first time, Lou sees Gracie not as a rival, but as someone who understands what it means to fight for what you love. Their fragile truce begins there, over coffee and fear. Meanwhile, Jack turns to the only thing that's ever kept him steady: work. He spends the day in the barn, fixing what doesn't need fixing, talking to horses like they're old friends. But even in his silence, the guilt slips through. He keeps thinking about Ty, how he'd know what to say to calm Amy, how proud he'd be of her strength. The show doesn't need words to tell us that. It's in the way Jack hesitates before touching Ty's old saddle. The way he stares at the open door like he's expecting someone to walk through it. Those small, wordless details are where Heartland shines. It's never about grand speeches. It's about the quiet ache that lingers after them. Nathan's story threads through the episode like a whisper. He visits the barn late at night, drawn to the silence, haunted by his past choices. He picks up one of Ty's tools, traces the worn handle, and you can see it: the guilt. The longing to belong, the fear that he never will. When Jack catches him there, the air tightens. For a moment, it feels like Jack might tell him to leave, but instead, he simply nods and walks away. It's forgiveness, not spoken but understood. Nathan's eyes follow him, and in that silence, his redemption quietly begins. The pacing of the episode slows just enough for reflection. The ranch feels emptier without Amy, but somehow fuller with emotion. Lindy asks questions that no one can answer: why planes fall, why people disappear, why good things get tested. And when Lou kneels beside her, trying to explain without breaking, it's one of those rare Heartland moments that hits deep. Because it's not about explaining the world, it's about holding on to love. When the world stops making sense. As the day fades into another restless night, the search team finds a clue, small but enough to stir hope. A piece of the plane's tail lodged in a riverbed miles from the ranch. Lou clings to it like proof that Amy's still fighting. But Jack, ever the realist, knows hope can cut both ways. He keeps his voice low when he says, "She's out there." But the mountain doesn't forgive easily. It's a line that carries weight not just for Amy, but for everyone at Heartland. Because survival in this world isn't about luck, it's about love strong enough to find its way back home. Somewhere deep in the wilderness, night drapes itself over the broken plain like a heavy blanket. The fire Amy and Caleb built has burned down to embers, and the silence around them feels endless. The stars above are sharp and cold, watching them from a distance. Amy sits awake, arms wrapped around her knees, staring into the flickering glow. Every crack of wood reminds her how far they are from home. Caleb's breathing is uneven, he's in pain, trying to hide it, but Amy can tell. She's seen that same kind of quiet suffering before, the kind that eats at a person's pride. She tears part of her sleeve, wraps his leg, and forces a half smile when he mutters a thank you. There's no comfort here, only endurance. Still, in the middle of all that fear, there's something else too. A sense of connection. Maybe it's the darkness, maybe it's the danger. But the space between them feels smaller than it used to. The next morning, fog rolls through the valley like smoke. Amy leads the way, her compass steady, her steps slower now from exhaustion. The land feels endless, every ridge looks the same, every turn teasing safety that never comes. But just when it seems hopeless, they stumble across a trail, hoof prints leading toward an old cabin hidden in the trees. It's falling apart, half swallowed by time, but to them, it's a miracle. Inside, they find shelter, dry wood, and a faded map pinned to the wall. The camera lingers on Amy, tracing the route home, her finger trembling slightly. For the first time since the crash, she lets herself believe they might make it back. But this is Heartland. Peace never comes without a price. Outside, the sound of wolves breaks the stillness. Their howls echo through the forest, eerie and close. The same symbol Lou's been fighting about back at the ranch now circles Amy's story. Like fate tying their worlds together back home, the tension reaches a breaking point. The community's starting to talk. Some say it's been too long, that the search might turn into recovery instead of rescue. Lou refuses to hear it. Her eyes burn with the same determination that's carried their family through every storm. She's not ready to grieve. She's ready to fight. And she's not alone. Gracie shows up at the ranch with supplies and maps, refusing to stand on the sidelines. If it were me out there, she says, Amy wouldn't stop looking. It's a rare moment of raw honesty between two women who once saw each other as enemies. What started as rivalry is slowly turning into respect. Their differences, Lou's compassion and Gracie's practicality, become their greatest strength. It's that mix of fire and focus that keeps hope alive when logic says to give up. Jack, meanwhile, becomes the silent anchor of the episode. His scenes carry the weight of history, the kind of wisdom that doesn't need explaining. There's a moment when he sits alone in the barn, staring at the horses and whispering something under his breath. We can't hear all the words, but we can feel the prayer in them. He's asking for strength, not for himself, but for Amy. Then the phone rings. A pilot reports seeing a glint of metal near the foothills. It's not confirmation, but it's something. Jack doesn't waste a second. He grabs his jacket, tells Lou to hold down the fort, and heads out with the rescue crew. His quiet resolve is powerful. It's the kind of leadership that doesn't shout, it simply acts. Out in the wild, Amy and Caleb hear the faint buzz of an engine overhead. They race outside, waving their arms, screaming through the wind. But the plane pauses too high to notice. Hope surges and dies in the same heartbeat. Amy feels the sting of tears she's been holding back for days. Caleb tells her to rest, but she can't. If we stop, she says softly, we disappear. It's a line that captures everything this episode stands for: endurance through despair. They keep moving, even when it hurts, because that's what Heartland does. It keeps moving. Back at the ranch, Lindy sits by the window again. This time, she's not crying. She's drawing. On a piece of paper, a small plane, a sun, and two stick figures holding hands. She tells Lou that her mommy will come back because heroes don't stay lost forever. Lou can't help but smile through her tears. That simple belief, a child's unshaken faith, becomes the heartbeat of the story. It's what ties every thread together: Amy's fight, Caleb's loyalty, Lou's courage, Jack's strength, and Lindy's hope. As night falls again, the search team camps near the foothills. The radio crackles with static, the cold cutting deep. Jack stares into the darkness, listening, waiting. Somewhere far off, a faint whistle echoes, a sound too distant to name, but enough to make him turn his head. His eyes narrow. He knows that sound. It's Amy's call. The same whistle she's used all her life to call her horses. The same sound that's echoed across Heartland for years. And in that instant, he knows she's alive. The fourth section opens with that faint whistle drifting through the cold air again, soft, almost like a memory. Jack freezes, heart pounding, and signals for silence. The search crew stops. The radio hums low in the background, but no one moves. Then it comes again, clearer this time, carried on the wind like a whisper from the past. It's Amy. Jack's face changes instantly. Fear and relief crash together in his eyes. He doesn't say a word. He just starts moving. The men follow, crunching through the frost, flashlights cutting narrow paths through the trees. Somewhere ahead, beyond the snow and smoke, Amy and Caleb are struggling to stay awake by their dying fire. The rescue isn't cinematic, it's raw, desperate, real. The cold bites, the ground slips beneath them, and the sound of approaching footsteps feels almost like a dream. When Jack's voice finally breaks through the night low, shaking, calling Amy's name, it's the kind of moment Heartland builds its soul on. Amy's relief is instant, but her body gives out before she can reach him. The camera holds on that, her collapse into Jack's arms. The way his face softens as if a lifetime of weight just lifted. Caleb tries to stand but stumbles, mumbling something about the horse they saved, as if it's proof they didn't lose everything. Jack kneels beside him, gripping his shoulder, whispering, "You did good, son." It's one of those quiet Heartland moments that doesn't need dramatic music, it's all heart. The rescue team moves quickly, wrapping blankets, checking vitals, setting up flares. Amy's eyes flutter open long enough to meet Jack's. "Told you I'd come home," she whispers, voice barely there. And just like that, the impossible becomes real. The following day, the ranch feels different. It's not the usual quiet, it's a silence heavy with gratitude. The family gathers in the kitchen, sunlight spilling through the windows, the smell of coffee filling the air. Amy's on the couch, leg bandaged, exhaustion etched across her face, but she's smiling. Caleb sits nearby, ankle propped up, cracking jokes that no one laughs at but everyone appreciates. Lou hovers between relief and guilt, telling herself she should have done more, searched harder, called sooner. But Amy stops her mid-sentence. "You were here," she says softly, "that's what matters." Those four words pull Lou back from the edge. Heartland has always been about family, but this moment simple reminds us why it matters. Jack steps outside for a moment, needing air. He looks out across the fields, the horses running free again, the snow melting under the sun. There's peace in the land again, but also something unspoken. He knows this isn't the end, it never is. His gaze drifts to the distant hills where the crash happened and he mutters under his breath. The land gives and takes. Always has. It's not bitterness, it's understanding. He's seen too much to believe in easy endings. That's what keeps Heartland grounded, the sense that healing doesn't erase pain. It just gives it a place to rest. Meanwhile, Lou's storyline with Gracie takes a surprising turn. The experience of nearly losing Amy changes both women. Their shared fear becomes a bridge between them. Gracie, who once spoke only in sharp edges and logic, now listens. Lou, who once led with emotion, now understands balance. Together, they attend a town meeting where the topic of the wolf hunt resurfaces. But this time, the tone has shifted. Lou doesn't argue, she tells the story. About survival, about the wolves that howled near Amy's crash site. About fear turning into understanding. The room quiets. Even Gracie seems moved, nodding subtly in agreement. It's a turning point not just for them but for Heartland itself. Because beneath all the tension, the message is clear: sometimes the fight isn't against the wild. It's against our need to control it. Back inside, Amy drifts in and out of sleep. Her dreams blur the line between memory and instinct, the sound of the wolves, the crash, the warmth of the horse she saved. When she wakes, Lindy's beside her, holding her hand. "Did you bring the horse home?" Lindy asks softly. Amy smiles. "No, sweetie," she says, "she found her own way." It's the kind of quiet dialogue that says more than any speech could. Amy isn't just talking about the horse, she's talking about herself. She's found her own way, through fear, through loss, back to love. As night falls, the family gathers for dinner. The mood is lighter now. Jack cracks a joke. Caleb's laugh fills the room. Lou's shoulders finally relax. But Heartland never ends without a reminder that peace is temporary. The camera lingers on Lou's hand as she folds a newspaper, revealing a headline about a proposed development project threatening Heartland Valley. The laughter fades in the background, replaced by a distant roll of thunder. The storm may have passed for now, but a new one is already on the horizon. The scene closes with Amy stepping out onto the porch, staring at the same stars that watched over her in the wilderness. The wind rustles softly, carrying a faint howl from the distance. She smiles, not in fear, but in understanding. The wolves aren't enemies anymore. They're reminders that survival isn't luck, it's legacy. The morning after brings stillness, the kind of calm that feels earned. Heartland wakes slowly, wrapped in that rare mix of exhaustion and gratitude. Amy sits by the window, watching the sunrise stretch across the fields. The light touches her face gently, and for a moment, it's as if the land itself is welcoming her home. She traces the rim of her mug, quiet, thoughtful. The near-death experience has changed her, not just in the way she moves, but in the way she looks at the world. The crash stripped everything down to its simplest form: fear, faith, and the will to keep going. That kind of clarity doesn't fade easily. You can feel it in her silence, the way she listens now, the way her eyes soften when she looks at her family. Heartland has always been about healing, but this time, it feels different. The wounds aren't just physical, they're spiritual. Downstairs, Lou's energy has shifted too. She's still the planner, the one juggling responsibilities and decisions. But now she carries a sense of purpose that wasn't there before. The argument with Gracie, the search, the sleepless nights, they all forced her to face herself. She understands now that leadership isn't about control, it's about connection. When Gracie shows up at the door, Lou doesn't hesitate. She invites her in. What follows isn't a truce, it's an understanding. Two women, both stubborn, both scarred by loss, realizing they want the same thing: to protect the land that raised them. Their conversation is calm, honest, layered with respect. Gracie admits that she was wrong about some things, and Lou, for the first time, lets go of being right. Together, they agree to face the upcoming development battle as allies, not opponents. The wolves may have brought them together, but it's Heartland that binds them now. Jack's role in this chapter feels quieter but heavier. He spends most of his time outside, repairing fences that don't really need fixing, walking the pasture like he's checking on old friends. His conversation with Amy later in the episode is one of those moments that reminds you why Heartland has lasted so long. They don't talk about the crash directly, instead, they talk about Ty, how he always believed the land had its own way of teaching lessons. Sometimes, Jack says, his voice rough but gentle, it knocks you down just to see if you'll stand back up. Amy smiles faintly, her eyes glassy. Guess I did, she whispers. Jack nods, tipping his hat. You always do. The simplicity of their exchange carries the entire weight of their journey: pain, growth, and the quiet power of endurance. Nathan's presence returns in the background of this episode, but now it feels different. The guilt hasn't vanished, but something in him has shifted when he visits Amy to check in. His words are careful, sincere. I wasn't sure if I should come, he admits, looking anywhere but at her. Amy studies him for a moment before answering, Ty believed in second chances, maybe I should too. The air between them softens. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's a beginning. Nathan leaves quietly, but with something lighter in his eyes. Something that almost looks like peace. It's subtle storytelling the kind Heartland excels at, where healing doesn't happen in grand gestures, but in pauses and quiet steps forward. As for Caleb, his humor returns, though now it's layered with humility. Around the dinner table, he cracks jokes about their adventure, but behind the laughter, there's a new depth in his tone. He's seen death up close, and it's changed how he sees life. His bond with Amy feels stronger. Not romantic, but built on trust and survival. They share a look that says everything: gratitude, relief, and unspoken respect. These are the kinds of connections that define the series, the small, wordless acknowledgments that life goes on, and that even near tragedy can strengthen the ties that hold the ranch together. Later that evening, the family gathers outside. The stars are bright again, the same ones that guided Amy home. Lindy points at them, naming constellations she barely knows, and everyone listens just to hear her laugh. Jack sits in his chair. Lou leans on the porch rail. Caleb strums a soft tune on his guitar. It's the quiet heartbeat of Heartland. No drama, no chaos, just life finding its rhythm again. But as the camera pans toward Lou, her expression hardens slightly. She's holding that same newspaper again, the one about the development project threatening Heartland Valley. The story has evolved from survival to defense. It's not a plane crash this time, it's something slower, more dangerous: change. The final moments of the episode carry that signature Heartland blend of hope and foreshadowing. Amy steps away from the porch, walking out into the open field. The horses lift their heads as she passes, the breeze carrying the soft echo of wolves howling somewhere far beyond the hills. She stops, closes her eyes, and smiles. That sound that once meant fear now feels like freedom, a reminder that survival isn't about escaping danger, it's about embracing the wild parts of life that make us who we are. The camera holds on her face as the wind brushes her hair, and for a moment, everything feels still, alive, and exactly where it's meant to be. The screen fades to black on Amy's faint whisper, barely audible but powerful, "We're home." And with that, Heartland reminds us once again that no matter how dark the night, the land and the love that lives on it always finds its way back to the light. What do you think about this episode's journey? Let me know your thoughts down below, and if you're enjoying these breakdowns, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story from Heartland.